that thread is kind of taking off. The one where I talked about our humanoid encounter. But I think a lot of people think that it's a troll. Because
the way you said that sounded like a housewife in the 50s saying, like, her casserole's a big hit in the neighborhood.
Well, it is kind of like my casserole. I told a story.
They all think it's my recipe, but it's Betty Crocker's.
It's
like
Art
all
Bell.
the others.
I just lifted from Art Bell. No, that's not true. This was our own encounter. Because I'm kind of jokey about it, I think people think it's a troll. That's just my personality, especially in text. I get a little silly even if I'm talking about something serious. In fact, the more serious the topic, the sillier I get. So, but it seems to be a popular thread for that forum where threads, I mean, it's a niche topic, so it's not like the threads are thousands of comments long, but it's definitely getting a little traction. People like to talk about ghost stories and aliens. And apparently there seem to be in San Antonio many what they're terming crawler sightings.
Has the San Antonio Express News been on top of this crawler story, or have they just decided to not feature that one, or just not send out reporters to cover it? Or do you feel like the local media doesn't feel like that's important enough to cover?
Isn't the local media, aren't they the ones who covered the big Fiesta story a couple years back when the mummified chupacabra was thefted from its booth at Fiesta?
But I feel like that story's based in substance, because even if the mummified chupacabra was like a mutant, a deformed, like a coyote with birth defects, it's still something there.
Well, I feel like this is something that people go to the internet to talk about. It's not something they're calling into the local news, because they know the local news would be like, they'd think it was a prank call. They're old media. It's like calling the local news is like calling your neighbor and telling them that you've seen a little man in your yard. Has anybody else seen this?
I promise you the local news feels like if they were to cover a story like this, it would discredit them.
Yes, and
they want to be a very reputable news organization, so they're not going to follow up leads based on alien sightings.
But if it is something that people think they're seeing, and a lot of people are reporting it, at least online, it's a story.
This, like so many other sightings, it's never supported by any evidence. Like, there aren't photos or video footage of these things. You say,
even if there would be now.
You say other San Antonians have seen this, but everyone has a smartphone.
But are we to the point where, I mean, first of all, nobody has their phone out when you see something very quickly on the road at night in the dark.
Oh, they do.
Some people do.
You wouldn't believe how quickly someone could get their phone out and snap a shot of a license plate if they feel like someone has committed a moving violation in their disfavor. They can take a picture of that car very quickly, and I could assure you they could take a picture of a small naked man just as quickly as they could a license plate.
Yes, but the emotion behind that is different. When people are taking a picture of a license plate, they're usually angry and they have a thought in their head of getting someone else in trouble.
It's driven by justice.
What we were talking about, I think we agreed that it was about the height of the hood of our Honda Civic, and a lot of other people said, yeah, that's about it. These are small creatures, like humans that have been shrunk.
Okay, but they can't all be exactly the same height. I'm sure there's variation in the height.
Yeah, but I mean, we're not all exactly the same height, but we're generally similar, like human beings. There's an idea that we're all kind of within some sort of frame. They're all very short, very tiny, not just short, but tiny, these creatures. And they have sort of a strange way of running and walking. I don't want to say pitter-patter, but that's what it is.
I think Corey Feldman's drug abuse is real. It's something that's actually happening in the world, and therefore it's automatically 1,000 times more interesting than these
would be
these other kinds of stories that aren't really confirmable, so that they can never move beyond the state of being something that may or may not have happened and
I
probably
don't
didn't
know.
happen. You will never get the evidence necessary in your life, and neither will I, to move them out of this stage.
Well, no,
and for me to
there's-
become really interesting, they need to get pushed out of that stage, and the only thing that can do that is evidence.
Well, there's been a series of documentaries. I don't know. It's 2 documentaries. I don't know if that counts as a series, by Jeremy Corbell, and
And enough blow has gone up Corey Feldman's nose for Sonny Bono to ski down and die going into a tree.
I don't specifically know that. But the point is, there's been 2 documentaries by Jeremy Corbell about Skinwalker Ranch and Bob Lazar and Area 51. So there's been some buzz on Amazon and Hulu. In one of the documentaries, the second one about, well, I know the first one, Skinwalker Ranch, he says while sitting around a cozy fire out in the middle of nowhere, sitting around a campfire in the
Who's
dark.
sitting around a campfire?
Robbie Williams. That's a name from the past.
The guy who sang Millennium?
Yes. He is there, and the...
Or the guy who was the genie in
I think the co-owner of...
The Lion King?
No. The co-owner, he wishes. This is a relevant documentary that a lot of people paid for on Amazon.
So
it's now
he
on
wishes
Hulu.
he'd be enriched by the royalties Kenny Rogers cried over when he wasn't a skeleton.
Indubitably. But and also the co-owner of AboveTopSecret.com, which is kind of a toxic place. So I don't even know if it's worth mentioning. But
Are you looking to get banned?
they don't know what my moniker is.
So you aren't tied to a specific monitor. Unless you try to start promoting the podcast there, then you're fucked.
No,
You're
but
gonna know.
I have no interest in doing that. We don't need that audience. Maybe we do. I don't know. So I think you're the more...
I thought you said you had a no-so rule, and you just broke your own rule.
I know.
You just said so.
Yes, but I get a pass because I don't often do that. But
Does Peter Gabriel get a pass for writing so?
No. So
is the album that In Your Eyes was on. I think Sledgehammer was also on that album.
There's aspects.
Why did you look like you were in pain when I said that?
I do. There are things I appreciate Peter Gabriel. I appreciate that what he has done is very impressive. It's just not my cup of tea for some reason.
Well, make me appreciate paranormal subreddits, because it sounds to me like you've been spending a whole lot of time there.
Well, it's a fancy of mine, and we have an interesting family history
I think
that
there's
has called to
absolutely
me.
nothing fancy about the kind of people that go to these sites.
Well, Reddit is different. I think Reddit, no matter what subreddit you're on, it's bringing a higher caliber of contributor.
I think it's just my prejudice, but when I think about the kind of people that get I want to say swayed by this kind of issue, resemble
Harry Knowles,
maybe Harry Knowles, maybe
Billy Bob Thornton.
do you remember King of the Hill?
Yes.
Those characters.
Any character from King of the Hill. That is the traditional UFO believer in popular
what
culture.
percentage of Above Top Secret's user base looks like they could have been a character in King of the Hill?
Okay, well that's not fair because I do think
all of them.
Yes, I do feel if you look in. I don't want to get too far into it, but yes, that seems to be the type of character that presents itself on those kinds of forums, but not Reddit.
Thing is with Reddit, with Reddit, a subreddit of that nature to survive has to have a continuous stream of new stories, new encounters.
Well, I feel that
Otherwise, it dies.
I feel that Reddit's paranormal subreddits have I feel that they're drawing more I don't want to say a younger crowd, but a a more common sort of individual, just the anybody kind of person who UFOs and ghosts are not their hobby. Mm-hmm. It's just they have a story and they want to share it because it's something that happened to them that changed the way they felt about life. And maybe it's just one isolated incident, and that's what makes it so interesting, that these are people that, unlike me, UFOs are not something that's sort of a preoccupation. It's just something that happened to them, and they don't understand it, and they're trying to find some kind of clarification. So I feel like Reddit draws that, rather than, as opposed to Above Top Secret, that attracts the amateur ufologist type that maybe lives in a trailer and eats TV dinners, and that's a very terrible characterization, but maybe not entirely untrue.
But I also know that on a lot of these subreddits,
they're not the lone gunmen, the people posting on these subreddits.
If you have a hot thread and you get a lot of replies and a lot of activity and you get a lot of upvotes, a lot of people really feed off of that attention. Well, so there is possibly the incentive to exaggerate an experience, or possibly even fabricate one, just to get the attention they expect to get for telling such a story.
Well, what I've seen so far...
I'm not accusing you or anyone else of such an exaggeration.
Well, I'd like to
I'm here to say that the subject of the thread you made is an experience shared by me, and I can confirm that something was seen on that Texas road. It was absolutely not a fabrication.
No, it's not, and I have many other stories, probably way more interesting than that one.
That doesn't mean other people...
But, I mean, they're outrageous.
That doesn't mean other people aren't making shit up.
No, and there have been a lot of people on these subreddits saying, are people making things up? That question has been thrown out there because I think people are self-conscious. They're nervous. They're sharing something that is very private, something that could... There's a feeling of it
the answer
having
is
the
yes.
potential to hurt them.
Some of them are.
Yes, but I feel like overwhelmingly the responses to these threads are, I'm a little bit excited because somebody is actually taking what they're saying seriously. It's not like, haha, Melvin, you're taking it, seriously, you idiot. It's a joke. It's more like, you're taking this seriously. Somebody is actually having a serious discussion where interesting ideas are being put forth about what this could possibly be. People do want to discuss it. People want to know what happened and make sense of it. Even if it's just, like Bob Lazar saying, yeah, I saw a tiny person for a moment through a window when I was walking through S4. And yeah, it could have been an alien, but what I think it was a doll that was, a mannequin, a tiny mannequin that was supposed to be in the seat to simulate who might have sat in these seats in the ship. Mm-hmm. Something like that. I mean, just finding and I know that's already outrageous because you're acknowledging that he's talking about a UFO, that they're back engineering. But I mean, that even at that level, he's thinking, what could be the practical explanation for this? What am I seeing? Maybe there are aliens.
About an alien experiment. Also,
even if
sounds
he's acknowledging that there are aliens, he's not acknowledging that he saw one. Even.
Also, incidentally, it sounds exactly like pre-production on a Radiohead music video. Dummies,
but that's also what I'm
seats.
talking about. We're at the stage where anyone could manufacture this kind of footage. So how do you even know? Nobody knows anything anymore. We're just sharing stories and trying to figure out what practically could have happened. Because we know we saw something. Our memories are not perfect unless you have a photographic memory.
It's been long enough that I know that we're not going to get the closure on the issue that maybe we need.
But maybe we will if we go hunting for them.
You need more than I need.
Can we find out what kind of bait they require?
What's in it for me?
Is there some gold we can offer?
What's
Do we
in it
have
for me?
Gold? Closure. I mean, I guess you don't want a good story.
I'm not Captain Ahab, and whatever that creature was is not my white whale. I'm sorry.
But that's actually not... I'm less interested in crawlers than I am some other subjects, but... and then that's what they're terming them, crawlers. That's new to me. It was just looked like a little person.
I'm hoping that that closure was received in this conversation, so I don't have to hear about this shit ever again. I fully expect to hear about other paranormal things, but maybe we can...
close the book on the crawler? But it seems to be something that is happening currently
We can
in San
throw it off a
Antonio and
bridge
for
the
many
same
years.
way Paul Rubens threw the penguin off of a bridge in Batman
I'm
Returns.
just saying this seems to be something currently happening in San Antonio, and it has been happening for several years. There are more and more accounts coming out, and it's I think it's interesting. What if there is some sort of colony of these creatures, and then what are they? People are calling them elves, but are they aliens?
Let's put a book note on the wider San Antonio wide phenomena and come back to it later.
Okay, you're shutting me down. Chupa has left the building.